What's up, guys? Here back on YouTube, TIM IARIA, to read another story from my notebook, from my story notebook that I started writing right before Cam was born. This is another, it's a bedtime story, actually. It's a children's story. It's a shorter one, so this isn't going to be as long of a video. I wrote this June 8th, 2015 is when I started working on this. I probably took a day or two maybe to finish it, but this is the first bedtime story I ever wrote, and it's called Dad the Conqueror, a bedtime story by TIM IARIA. Once upon a time, the world we know was filled with monsters who lived among us at night in closets, under beds, and in shadows everywhere. People at the time feared and even respected these monsters, and they accepted the bad things the monsters would do. Monsters who chose to live in closets would rip children's good clothes and hide their favorite toys. The monsters who lived under beds would keep children awake at night so they would be tired in school the next day. Finally, monsters who stayed in the shadows would steal anything and everything they wanted, and they would lie about it too. Children everywhere lived in constant fear of these nasty beasts, and they did not deserve to be treated in such ways. One day, a brave man found out that soon he would be becoming a daddy. Not wanting his son or daughter to grow up in such a cruel world as he had, he made it his mission to vanquish monsters everywhere. First, the man traveled to the Canary coal mines, located 1,000 feet underground. This mine was known to be the headquarters of all the monsters who lived under beds at night. When he found himself surrounded by these horrible beasts, he quickly realized he was clearly outnumbered. Needing an idea of how to defeat so many at once, he fumbled to pull his UV flashlight out of his backpack. When he switched it on to get a better look at his surroundings, suddenly, any monster touched by the light instantly vanished into dust. After an hour or so of battling his foes in the dark with his flashlight, every monster underground was no more. The man was happy knowing children everywhere would sleep well that night. Next up on his journey was into the sewers of Shredder City, which was where all the closet-dwelling monsters hung out during the day. Once again, the man found himself massively outnumbered and without a plan on how to defeat so many monsters, who were now slowly surrounding him. Again, the flashlight came out, but it had no effect on these new monsters. After he scrambled for a new solution, he nervously began to sing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," a song his mother had sung to him as a child. Lo and behold, one by one, all the monsters within earshot began to vanish into dust. Louder and louder he repeated the song until his voice filled the sewers and every monster down there was no more. Again the man was happy, knowing school clothes and toys everywhere would be unharmed that night. The last place he knew he must visit to finally rid the world of all monsters was the dreaded outer forest. This particular forest was not only the darkest and the scariest place on earth, but it was the home to monsters who lived in shadows everywhere. After traveling many days to get there, the brave father-to-be walked into the darkness. Soon enough, he found himself again surrounded by the biggest, meanest, scariest shadow monsters known to man. No matter how bright his flashlight shone, or how loud he sang "Twinkle, Twinkle," the monsters were not affected. Closer and closer the monsters crept until they were almost on top of him. The man was out of ideas and seemingly out of luck. Suddenly, the thought of holding his son or daughter in his arms came to mind, and he no longer was afraid. One by one, the monsters began to vanish. The man realized fear was the only thing they had been surviving on, and his courage among them had destroyed them. Soon every monster in the forest was destroyed, effectively eliminating monsters everywhere. When the man returned home, he found his wife waiting to introduce him to his new baby. Taking the child in his arms, he whispered, "I would do anything for you, my love, and I will stop at nothing to keep you safe always." All was right in the world, and the child grew up never having to fear monsters because of Dad the Conqueror. You may ask me how I know the details of this story, and the answer is simple. The man in the story was me, and the child was you, pal. I love you. Sleep good, sleep tight, and good night. Go to bed.